With the NHL community, and in particular Toronto Maple Leafs fans, stunned by the low-dollar signing of Brayden Point, did Julien Brisebois get a damaged goods discount? Find out on today's episode of Distant Lightning. Hey everybody. So, early summer, or even during the summer, even in early September, the reports were that the Lightning and Point were far apart in contract negotiations. Everyone was looking at Mitch Marner's contract, trying to see if the Lightning would try to match it or come close to it, and what that might mean for Point and the Lightning moving forward. Pierre LeBrun on Twitter, September 13th, wrote, "Now let's see how the Marner contract impacts other negotiations. It's believed Tampa's last offer to Brayden Point was around 3 years and $5.7 million average value. Both sides far apart." And they're comparing to Marner because Marner got 92 points, Point got 90 points, I think, last season, so they're pretty close. But Brayden Point's a center, and as I've said in prior episodes, centers are usually valued higher. And we all saw Marner get a big payout, like $10.89 million average salary. Tampa really only had about $8.5 million in cap space. So, what was Julien to do? If we look earlier in the summer, there's some comparisons. Taking a look at Point and what his performance, how his performance looked year over year. And we can see him steadily grow. Between the last 3 seasons, he did 40 points a couple years ago, last year 66, and then the most recent season 92 points. So we know he's worth it. If we're Julien Brisebois and we're looking around the league and trying to see some comparables of similar players and what they're making, we've got Austin Matthews pretty high up there at $11.63 million, Jack Eichel 10, a couple other guys with fairly long contracts. Matthews only has 5 years, and they're taking up quite a bit of chunk of their team's cap space. Point, meanwhile, a lot of people were thinking it would be between $7.5 and $8.5 million average value, not leaving the Lightning much room to sign anybody else. And then, boom, the Lightning sign him for like $6.75 million per year on average. And, stunned everybody. 3-year bridge deal, which is pretty similar to other deals the Lightning have done with other star players on the team. Which begs the question, why? Why did we get such a good deal on Point? So then Joe Smith on Twitter writes, GM Julien Brisebois clarified Brayden Point's status, that he underwent hip surgery this summer, and early plan was that he'd be ready by late October, not expected to play in any preseason games or be ready to play opening night, hoping to get him back ASAP. So that's why. If we look at Kuch, Stamkos, Point contract comparisons, let's see the deal that Brisebois got. Those are the top 3 highest paid forwards on the Lightning, and you can see the salary differences. You got Nikita Kucherov at $9.5 million, Stamkos 8.5. Now Brayden Point in bringing up the rear, if you will, $6.75 million, and his contract will to be RFA 2022-2023 season, right at the end of that one, at the beginning of that one rather. For Toronto fans, but Mitch Marner, and wondering why they paid Mitch Marner so much. If we compare the top 3 Maple Leafs earners for forwards with the top 3 forwards on the Lightning, you can kind of see some of the differences there. And we've all heard, well, there's tax differences. And I was always curious about this. And one correction I have to make, I did not understand and didn't know that all NHL players, regardless of which country they're playing in, they all get paid in US dollars. I did not know this. So any kind of currency evaluations, going back and forth, you can throw that out the window. That's actually not true. They all get paid in US dollars. So it really does boil down to tax differences between the localities that they play in. If you look on screen now, this is from hockeygraphs.com. Somebody did a good job of putting together some salaries from different players around different teams and take a look at that effective tax rate to understand what they're actually taking home at the end. If we look at the top, here's a Maple Leaf, John Tavares. He gets paid apparently he get paid $15.9 million last season. Tax rate over 50%, takes home like $7.4 million. So you can see that a lot of the guys, after taxes, it becomes a lot more of a level playing field. Connor McDavid is making more than just about anybody on average. He's taking home only a little bit more than Tavares. And you go down the list, there's William Nylander on the Maple Leafs. His take home ends up $6 million. Look at Sidney Crosby, a superstar in the league for as long as I can remember. He's only taken home $5.7. U.S., Canada, there's a couple of noticeable differences. Jamie Benn playing in Dallas and PK Subban playing in Nashville, Tennessee keep more of their money, relatively speaking. Let's go to the next slide. And here's a good kind of chart to show, hey, here are the highest gross salary paid players against the highest after-tax salary. Our own Steven Stamkos makes the list after taxes. So there's that Florida lack of a Florida tax penalty because they don't have state income tax. And you can see how the other players kind of need to be paid more in order to have a competitive salary against players of their same skill level in the league. Now, being curious about tax rates, well, I mean, what does that mean, really? So I found this great article on hockeygraphs.com where they kind of looked side by side at U.S. tax rates and Canadian tax rates. Interestingly enough, the U.S. federal tax rate at high incomes is actually higher than Canada overall. What really comes into play in Canada are the provincial taxes that they have. If you live in Quebec and play for Montreal, you're paying a lot of taxes, and your salary is going to have to be higher. And I don't know how it works in the league if Montreal gets some type of a salary cap advantage, like they get a higher ceiling or not. I'm a little ignorant there. I really don't know, but they probably need it based on these charts I'm looking at. If we compare U.S. tax rates to Canadian province tax rates, here's the big difference. The only state that comes close to Canada-level taxes is California. California is the Canadian province of America, basically. Minnesota is a little bit far behind, but California is at 13.3%. So anybody on those California teams, LA Kings, San Jose Sharks, you're going to probably need to see elevated salaries for those players to kind of comp them with other American cities around the league. We can see Florida, where the Lightning are, 0% state tax. PK Subban enjoying the Tennessee 0% tax. And the other dude there in Texas also at 0%. So really, that's where the differences are coming in these negotiations. So did Brayden Point need to make as much as Mitch Marner? No. Clearly the answer, no, he didn't need to. So we learned something about his hip, and I was curious, well, what's going on with his hip? You know, we just signed this guy. I love Brayden Point. Like, he's my favorite player on the team. I finally had an opportunity to buy my first jersey after being a fan for about 5 years, and I bought a Brayden Point jersey. And everyone said, why did you do that? You just jinxed us, and we'll be lucky if he signs the team now. You know, pinning all the blame on me. Anyway, so it was interesting. I wanted to look into this. So what's going on with his hip? And what do we know about it? So Brian Burns had reported, this is from Sportsnet, there was a tweet that they put up there. Lightning GM Julien Brisebois on a conference call with media said Brayden Point had hip surgery in the spring, doesn't expect him to be ready for the season opener, projected to be cleared to play by late October. Point underwent the procedure this past spring, has already been skating for several weeks, per Lightning general manager Julien Brisebois. Okay. Some more info. Brisebois said there's no long-term concern with Brayden Point's hip injury and subsequent surgery. Brisebois said Point is pain-free at this point and is almost back to normal. And a minute after that, Brisebois said Point is skating and has been for a number of weeks. He'll join the team at Florida this week, but will be in a non-contact jersey. Okay, so what else do we know? Well, there was some speculation online because I didn't see any official announcement of exactly what's going on, but popular consensus seemed to point at something called a labrum tear. And so I just wanted to share with you what I found out about it. This is from the mayoclinic.org. A hip labral tear involves the ring of cartilage, known as the labrum, that follows the outside rim of the socket of your hip joint. In addition to cushioning the hip joint, the labrum acts as a rubber seal or gasket to help hold the ball at the top of your thigh bone securely within your hip socket. Athletes who participate in such sports as ice hockey, soccer, football, and others are at higher risk of developing a hip labral tear. Structural abnormalities of the hip can lead to a hip labral tear. Okay, so he's hitting, he's doing hip checks. We know that Point is nearly immovable in front of the other opponent's net, right? He plays really hard around the other team's net. So this could be a result of it. It could just be going to the boards in a bad way a few too many times. But he did get it repaired on the hush, right? Real quiet. So if we wonder why he didn't make maybe 8.5, match Stamkos' pay perhaps, or come close, maybe $8 million a year. If we look at this deal, the way it's structured, we see Julien Brisebois. I mean, it's structured in a way to see how he heals coming back. If we look at his payout over the 3 years, because it's a 3-year deal, they take the overall pay and they average it out, and that's what we take a cap hit on. But if you look at what we actually pay him in year one, okay, this coming season, we pay a total of $5.25 million. Then we pay $6 million, and then we get to $9 million. All right, so in that third year, that's when he's making his money. And to me, this looks like, okay, post-surgery, let's see how he plays. He might miss. What if it aggravates? He might miss some games. He might miss the playoffs this season. And then next season, we'll play him a little more, see how it goes. But season 3, if he's still playing, we're going to pay him some big bucks. All right? If he's not playing, well, we can stick him on long-term and injured reserve and get that money back for our cap ceiling. So this was, maybe a team-friendly deal. It was certainly helpful for Point to acknowledge that he had an injury and structured the contract in similar fashion. So good job, BB. Okay, so again, a fan of this vlog. I don't have many, but I have a couple of good ones, and they snuck me an unverified recording of Julien Brisebois allegedly celebrating after signing Point. And they think he was on the phone with none other than his former mentor and boss, Steve Yzerman. Let's have a listen.
Hello? Oh, Stevie. So good of you to call. Did you enjoy my croissants I sent you and your daughters? Oh, good. Thank you, thank you. So, why are you calling today? Brayden Point, yes? Oh, please. Sure, do I think he's worth $8 million or more? But of course I do. But, let's face it, Stevie, he's got those hips. You know how long it took Stamkos to come back to fighting form? Oh, I should have paid him more. I'm sure you would have liked that. But Stevie, who was really calculating the deals when you were here, eh? Yes, you taught me a lot. Oh, calm down, calm down. You see, in 3 years he makes a lot more money. He'll be happy. He loves this team. What other team does he have a chance to win a Stanley Cup with? Okay. I appreciate your opinion. Okay, goodbye. Oh. Hello? I have another call. Hello? Kyle Dubas. Wait, no, I'm not paying him under the table. You're crazy. Don't you see the palm trees and the ocean down here? You're lucky I didn't make an offer sheet to Marner. How much would he want to be on a line with Steven Stamkos, Brayden Point, and Nikita Kucherov? With Hedman backing him up? Okay, yes. All right, I'll talk to you, some other time. Don't call me and accuse me of thievery.
All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. Looking ahead, I keep meaning to do this line projection episode, but too much good stuff is happening, getting in the way. But, what will our forward lines look like without Brayden Point to start the season? And which of our minor leaguers are most likely to earn a roster spot starting with our season opener against the Panthers next Thursday? We'll find out on next episode of distant lightning.